Hello Cloud Gurus and welcome to this lecture. And this lecture is all about Macie. And Macie is a really cool service which helps you to protect sensitive personal information in S3. So let's get started. So many of us have personal data stored online in websites where we've made purchases, in social media accounts, or in online banking applications as well. But imagine you are running a social media application and you're using S3 to store data which may contain personal information about your users. So, for example, emailing lists, sales and marketing data, or CSV files used for reporting, all of which may include your users' personal data. But how are you going to keep track of all of this data? How do you know which files contain sensitive information and who in your organization is accessing it? And wouldn't it be great if AWS could handle all of that for you? Well, this is where Macie comes in. But first of all, let's take a look at what PII or PI is. So it stands for Personally Identifiable Information. And this is personal data that can be used to establish an individual's identity. And if this data got into the wrong hands, it could easily be exploited by criminals, used in identity theft and financial fraud. So this is data that you really want to protect. So it's things like home address, email addresses, social security numbers, passport number, driving license number, date of birth, phone number, and any bank account details. And that's just a few examples. So what is Macie and how can it help us to manage our sensitive data? Well, it's a security service which uses machine learning and NLP, or natural language processing, to discover, classify and protect sensitive data stored in S3. So it actually uses artificial intelligence to recognize if your S3 objects contain sensitive information. It provides you with dashboards, reporting and alerts on sensitive information. It works directly with data stored in S3. And it can also integrate with CloudTrail logs. It can analyze the data in CloudTrail logs, and it can tell you who is accessing your data and when. And this is really great for organizations which need to adhere to PCI DSS compliance. And if you don't know, PCI DSS, it relates to the payment card industry. So organizations like Visa, American Express, MasterCard, etc. And it's also really good for helping to prevent identity theft as well. So how does Macie work? Well, it actually classifies your data, and it can classify your data according to 4 different domains. So firstly, by content type, so it can recognize if your data is in JSON or PDF format or XML, etc. It can also classify by file extension. So for example, if it's a .bin file, .c, .bat, .exe, etc. It can classify by theme. So it can recognize if the theme is related to American Express, Visa, MasterCard, etc. It can recognize banking and financial keywords as well as web exploitation keywords. And it can also classify by regular expression, also known as regex. So a few examples here, it could recognize if you're storing your AWS secret key in a file in S3, RSA private keys, Swift codes, as well as router configurations as well. And once it's analyzed and classified the data, it uses that information to build dashboards, create alerts and reports on the presence of personally identifiable information. It also gives visibility on how the data is being accessed, who is accessing it, is the data being moved around from one S3 bucket to another? And it can also analyze your CloudTrail logs, which are stored in S3, and report on any suspicious API activity. So let's take a look at some of our exam tips for Macie. So really, you just need to remember what it is and what it allows you to do. So it uses AI to analyze your data in S3 and helps to identify personally identifiable information. It can also be used to analyze your CloudTrail logs for suspicious API activity. It includes dashboards, reports, and alerting, and it's great for PCI DSS compliance and preventing identity theft. But really, the best way to learn about Macie is to actually use it, and that's exactly what we're going to do in the next lecture. So if you've got time, please join me in the next lecture. Thank you.